Irene took a seat next to King Woodcrest. The king spoke. I was 16, not the youngest soldier in the army. I was part of this small platoon, 25 men in total. We were ordered to relieve a platoon that was stationed in a small town. It was a time of strife between our two kingdoms. We were not at war, but tensions were high. Patrols departed for the towns on the border of the Forgotten Forest. High numbers of Amazons were seen coming into the forest. My father was worried that the Amazons might be gathering forces to launch an attack on our kingdom. He decided to strengthen the border towns. When the platoon arrived at the town, we split into 5-man squad. Each squad was stationed at 5 points around the town. 2 facing the forest, close to one another in case of an attack, 2 in the rear entrance of the town, and 1 in the middle to support any of the others, as well as to ward off an attack from the sides. Each squad had 1 mage to signal the others. Our squad was to the left front, one facing the forest. The fortifications would be simple: a ditch. We worked by the light of the moon. When there was no moon, we worked by the crystal light. They were held in a square metal box with a large hole in the front, held by the top. Only 2 would work on the ditch at one time. The rest would be lookouts. I was on a light. It was on a night. I and the other 2 were on lookout that I saw them. A group of 3 Amazons coming from the tree line, probably drawn there by the crystal light. Amazons, I yelled, pointing at the tree line. The other 2 guards ran up to me. Amazons? Where? One asked. There. Or they were a moment ago. Captain walked up. So, you caught a glimpse of an Amazon, did you? I wouldn't go chasing them into the forest. They say the Amazons can control the animals as well as spirits. In a forest, they can hide in plain sight, make the trees move. Follow an Amazon in there, and you're dead before you know it. I was impetuous in my youth. So, when I was once again scouting the area and saw an Amazon, I thought I could follow her back to the camp and report on numbers, locations, weapons, anything that might help for an offense, or the worst happened, a defense strategy. As soon as I saw her, she ran back into the forest. Now, Irene, I wouldn't be so reckless to give chase if there was more than one, but she appeared to be alone. So, give chase I did. Once in the forest, I tried to be as quiet as possible. I was slow, steady. I thought, quiet. I lost the Amazon almost immediately. I paused, tried to take in the sound of the forest, straining to hear any sound of feet moving through the forest, my heart pounding in my chest at the warning the captain gave. Suddenly, an arrow hit a tree next to me. I turned around to hear someone run off. After that, I found my way back to the camp. The whole camp had started looking for me at this time. I got a pretty good scolding from the captain. You'd think I learned. But no. A few nights passed without much contact from the Amazons. We heard the animals in the forest making noise because of them, but none appeared. I was put on the digging crew for punishment for going into the forest alone, but still I was determined to get whatever information I could on the Amazons. So when my punishment was over and I was back on patrol, I headed into the forest once more. I knew that if I went in a straight line, I wouldn't get lost. So I kept as many trees at my back as I could. Some distance into the forest, I heard the sound of a small river. Now at this time, the forest was unmapped for fear of the spirits that are said to live there. As I came to the river, I saw an Amazon standing on the other side. She raised her fist to her shoulder. I could only see it from the side, pointing the first two fingers up, then quickly pointed them at me. An arrow coming from the tree to her right embedded itself next to my right foot. I didn't move, unsure what would happen if I did. She did the same thing again, and an arrow came from her left, embedding itself next to my left foot. I still didn't move. She smiled, raised her hand, palm facing me, then quickly jerked it to one side. I heard two heavy thuds hit the ground. Then I heard two people run off further into the forest. After we could no longer hear their footsteps, she walked into the river. I drew my sword and followed. The moonlight danced on the water as we met. The river was a bit uneven under my foot. Whatever it was, the water was just under my knees. My movement was slow. We stood there facing each other. She was an inch taller than me. The staff she held was twice as long as the arming sword I held. I knew I could be in trouble. The Amazon had his smoking gray eyes, black hair as black as a starless night, and skin as white as a ghost. You should leave soon. My two friends will return with reinforcements. I raised my sword to meet her staff. Tell me, why are the Amazons massing in the forest? Are you planning to invade our kingdom? I'll tell you, if you can win. With that, the fight was on. The fight started off slowly, almost like she was testing my skill. I blocked her first strike. There was almost no power behind it. I attacked. She blocked with ease. The blow felt like hitting a steel rod. The fight lasted only a minute or two. I looked up, my chin just over the water line. The end of her staff pointed at my face. You dropped your guard. I hit you once in the stomach, once under the chin. After that, you must have slipped down one of the rocks. To answer your questions, no, we're not planning to invade your kingdom. As for the forest, it belongs to none of the races. Your kingdom goes from the sea to the start of this forest. The dwarves belong to the mountains. Our kingdom are the islands on the western sea. We were hoping to build a settlement here. The forest has a lot to offer us. I'll try to talk my mother to reduce the Amazon presence, but no promises, okay? The 6 Amazons stood on the opposite side of the shore. The name's Seleina. You should go. If you can meet me in the clearing, just that way, just follow the river upstream. Come along and don't bring any weapons. Here, one of the Amazons held out a hand. Princess Seleina, one of the Amazons stepped forward with an arrow notched. What should we do with him? Let him go. I stood up, dripping wet. Princess. Here she turned around. Yes, the name's James Woodcrest. Prince Woodcrest. Hope we can meet again. Seleina smiled and nodded. Remember the clearing? I heard a voice, but not where it came from. Should change that. As I received my tongue lashing, my thoughts returned to Seleina. I needed to prove to her I could at least hold my own against her. The ditch has been done for a bit, but our rations were running low, and not wanting to take away the town's supply, I and another volunteered to hunt for game in the forest. Of course, I had a different agenda. So when we entered the forest, I ran ahead of him. The moon was a sliver in the sky, so we had to use our crystals around our necks for light. I got to the river and followed it to the clearing. My eyes had adjusted to the poor light, as well as the light, what little there was, coming from the crystal. There she was, a black figure standing in a grassy field. I thought I could sneak up to her. I stepped forward when I heard her groan. I know you're there. I heard you coming a long ways off. Here, I felt a stick hit me. I picked it up. It was about 1.5 feet long. Looking at it, I said, I should tell you, I haven't played with these since I was 5, playing with my friends. I much prefer something a lot more pointed. Laughing, she said, prove yourself with these, and I'll see what we can do. That's what I have so far. Hope you enjoyed.